Yeah, it's a real pleasure to introduce Jamiah Hargins. I learned about him through Vita Beach, and as I mentioned before, I'm an avid gardener just like he is, and I have a front yard garden. But I'd like to take a moment to just connect what he does with Juneteenth. And um, last night I was writing a little piece about this for our newsletter, and I was reflecting that many of you have heard that uh, African Americans who were emancipated were supposed to be given 40 acres and a mule, but most of them didn't receive it. That was a story I heard. But actually, some of the African Americans who were emancipated did take advantage of General Sherman's Special Field Order number 15, which was issued on January 16, 1868. Baptist minister Ulysses Houston, one of the group, had met with Sherman, led 1,000 Blacks to Skagway Island, Georgia, where they established a self-governing community with Houston as the Black governor. And by June of 1865, 40,000 freedmen had been settled on 400,000 acres of Sherman land. And Sherman later ordered that the Army could lend the new settlers mules, hence the phrase 40 acres and a mule. I bring that up because these emancipated people were not passive victims. They took advantage of opportunities. They showed entrepreneurial spirit, leadership, and they were on their way to self-governance and self-reliance as a community. And I think Jamiah Hargins carries on that tradition of the African-American community. And he really is doing amazing work. And I'm eager to hear more about it. So thank you so much, Jamiah, for joining us today.
Thank you. What a kind intro, Anthony, and everyone. Very, very generous. I'm very excited to be here. I'm loving this conversation, by the way. Grateful to Gerald for raising 5 daughters. I have just one here, and and the amount of importance that I feel is just more, it's the most important thing I know.
And it's like 15.
Okay, let me talk. Could you adjust to make me a co-host so I can share my screen?
Yeah, Dave will have to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And I've got a photo slideshow.
Okay,
I'm
Michael.
Very honored by, here, sit up straight. Very honored by, do you need to go sit somewhere else? This is the only time I'm going to say this, okay? Very honored to be here. And that legacy that you mentioned is increasingly important for my purpose. A little of my background is I was raised in a Church of God in Christ. And actually, true background is my family was Air Force. And so related to race, there's always situations happening that on an Air Force base, a lot of Black folks would gravitate toward finding a church together, not just because they may be Christian, but because they culturally wanted to have a space together to kind of relax their shoulders around each other and talk about what's happening at work. And as our experience went, it was the same thing through Colorado, England, watch my cut. Colorado, England, Germany, Spain, and mainly New Mexico, where my father, in Europe, where my late father, he was a very well-known and successful civil engineer that helped NORAD and Area 51 make their underground living spaces inhabitable. And I have just been honored. He died when I was 13 from cancer, but I followed him a lot around, and I still spiritually connect with him on a daily basis in my work and in my parenting. So I'm going to show you what we're doing here in LA, and basically what I've been working on. Let's just get the screen to do what I wish. and I'll be sharing it in just a quick moment. Okay, I think you can all see this, right?
That's Daddy.
Yes, it's Daddy. Oh no, it's going way fast.
That's Daddy.
Yes, sweetie. Don't touch again, please. I need to let you. Can you stay quiet, or I'm gonna have you sit somewhere else, okay? And don't move around. Sit right here. Okay. What's funny is now I'm a Taoist. Do I need to have you sit somewhere else? Can you please sit still? Okay. I'm a Taoist, and there are three gifts in the Tao that they say. One of them is patience, and I'm exercising patience right now. Anyway, so this is what happened after I had Triana. I went to my backyard. It's a rental house. And I thought it was important to begin growing food, even as kind of an amateur. I built these kind of funky looking raised beds. The wood wasn't perfect. The spraying wasn't precise. The planting was definitely not precise. But the purpose was that, kind of like Gerald, I felt a personal. Gianna, could you go read? I'm going to ask you to go read. That was the last time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kind of like Gerald, I wanted to make sure that I could provide what I could. And in a city like LA, the food situation was continually a challenge for me as an adult who had a car to move around, who could shop at any grocery store I wanted, who had money from a job. I could buy whatever food I wanted. And still I found it difficult to get the right quality food for myself. So I decided when she came that I definitely needed to have a personal stock of food at hand and to teach her the practices of independence, no longer dependent upon a system that would give us or provide for us or make us a certain way, healthy or unhealthy. In a city like LA, it's barriered on the north and the east by a mountain range that when we have a big earthquake one day, it's very easy to think it could be cut off in transportation, not only for ourselves, but also others nearby. And we get all of our water from the Colorado River Basin, which is problematic in that we can't really irrigate things on our own. So that's a problem. It's a big risk. And as a parent, I thought about that and wanted to get ahead of it. So this garden actually ended up starting to produce way more food. And what I did was create just a neighborhood get together called Crop Swaps. And that's, a name just to say people are, getting together to share their extras as gardeners with each other. It created an atmosphere of love and kindness. And in the same spirit, it kind of flattened a lot of the social, economic, racial, location-based, professional differences that we had among each other, and just centered all of us around food and giving, kindness, love, and abundance. In fact, this young lady here just loved my collar so much that she had to give it a hug. Another thing we did early on, this was in 2018, we would go to people's trees and pick the extras. They generously would offer them to us to distribute not only on my sidewalk here, but also at a farmer's market that we later opened called the West Adams Farmers Market. The West Adams Farmers Market, it lived for about a year and a half. COVID changed the nature of markets and people didn't come as much. So we just shut it down about 2 months ago. But it was a place of kindness and it helped me identify people early on who now work for me. 2 of these 3 people work for me now and have always kind of been part of this movement, highlighting products and services from the neighborhood, and just gave us a chance and me a platform to invite leaders to demonstrate what they can do for the community. This led to me doing some consultations, kind of teaching a little bit about, sharing and gardening. I have some technical plant-based things to share with you in a moment. But we also opened an informal trainee program, learning a little about irrigation and planting, plant biology, composting, and things of that sort. Then when the pandemic really hit, you might remember there was a food pipeline disruption, I guess a supply chain disruption. Typically, it was experienced in a efficiency of food, but also there were situations where certain farms that grew food and had their outlets didn't know where to put it because the outlets had been closed all of a sudden. So what we did was we would collect the food from some certain farms like County Line here and distribute them to organizations and people who needed it. It, all around South LA, and it was just something that was natural. Folks would come to me and say, "I have this extra food. Do you know anyone that needs it?" And obviously, we could find someone who did. So, we're really fortunate that in that action, it gained some public attention. I was honored by the city council in 2019 by our council folks as a good food champion, which was really exciting. And just to let you know that plaque and the painting I'm holding is actually hand painted. All of those things are hand painted. It's a beautiful little thing. But it was a great honor. And then I got into Real Simple magazine on the stands at Target. I picked it up and showed everybody I could around there. They're like, "Look, it's me." Just about giving and kindness and being a conduit for what we can. In the Taoist way, it's using what you have to carve your block of wood, and we have to. We have to use what we can. Excuse me. So I began to focus on my block of wood. I'm grateful to, I've gotten into Time Magazine about this. Somebody wanting it, I think it was a list of 27 people that are making change or something like that. And then recently, this was May 13th. This was May 13th, and I made it on the front page of the LA Times. In fact, I got the, bless you. We got the framed version here. And it was a little surprise. Honestly, it was a big surprise to be on the front page and above the fold about this. But I just want to highlight in this presentation that there's the rest of the news on this page that you see is terrible news, like Trump ouster in the GOP, that mayhem in Palestine, Governor Newsom having a new education plan because the old one didn't work. Inflation is super crazy, a slain activist. And even Ellen down there, her news was that she's ending the show. There was no good news that day except for what we're doing, turning LA yards into green acres. And it's a concept that I have that comes into this vision here. It's that we can use our space, we can use what's around us to shape our block of wood. This image is actually from Switzerland. It's a neighborhood where these homes have converted and dedicated their yards to food production. And I just see the same opportunity here, right? In LA, we have the sunlight, we have the opportunity, we have yards, abundant yards, and we have an ability to change things. So that's where my vision really kicked off. And this is as recent as kind of March this year. I think, last June I applied for a public voting competition, and the public voting competition was called LA 2050, but basically based on the idea of turning yards into gardens, people voted, and we got about 7,000 votes to get a second place in that one. We got $50,000 to do as many front yard gardens as we could. So there was a lot of support around this, and this is our first attempt that you see. This is the before picture of a house, and here is the after picture. We converted it into a front yard micro farm, and this is a home of somebody else. He works with my wife at their school. And when I saw his yard, I said, oh, it's big and beautiful. We got to try it on yours first. And, you know, again, here's the before picture looking down. This is around the corner of Angeles Vista and Olympiad. And this is the after picture where we have 600 plants growing. And what's cool about it is it's a water recycling garden. And I think it's the world's first because it not only captures rainwater that falls onto it, but it treats it like a pond. This is a pond set up to show you how those work. They have a pump at the bottom, they pump it up to the top, it drains down, and it's stored in these boxes with pond liners underneath it. We have a couple of architectural designs that basically we grow the food out of soil socks. The soil socks, for those that love plants and those gardeners listening in, we use the soil socks not only to contain the soil so it doesn't spill out and get messy, but it also acts as a mulching mechanism, and it acts as a heating mechanism for the roots because they're black. Let me just go back to the the soil socks allow drainage and aeration, and for you to plug however many plants into them as you want. You kind of, it's a recycled polypropylene plastic that can be rolled out, cut, you zip tie one end of it, pump it full of soil and compost. We did an 85%, 15% mix, and then you cut holes in the top to plant your plugs into those. This is the homeowner. He is helping us. I want to, you know, on the anniversary of Juneteenth, I want to highlight that, you know, this is a collaboration between Black men, and that Black men can work really well together. I think there's a cultural misinterpretation that draws divisions in our own community. And I'm excited through this whole experience to highlight that a Black business owner, myself, and a Black homeowner, Michael, two young men, less than 40 years old, are doing really, really big things this way. So what we did is first we stripped off the grass, which was really difficult. We did the whole thing with no gasoline, and we did it all by hand. Then we dug giant holes at the bottom. These are the reservoirs where the water drains back into. There are two, and each one is about 7 feet wide, 7 feet deep. And then we basically put these eco rain boxes that take up space and contain and allow for pressure and weight to be put onto them into those holes once they were dug. We wrapped the whole thing in pond liner. This is from Firestone Company. I know the company's history. I'm trying to get them to like acknowledge their history and their terrible work in Liberia and other things. But yeah, I'm hoping to make an alliance with them to get this pond liner donated as a result of these things. But then we put the pumps, basically electric timers and filters that allow for most of the debris to stay out of the system. We terraformed the yard, made it flat and declining angles so that when it's irrigated, it can drain down. And then we rolled out the pond liner. I now have, you know, this was trainees in the yellow shirt. The trainees worked with the team that's irrigation here in Viruscape LA. They're leaders, one of my mentors. And as you see, the neighborhood was really interested. This young lady and her child were walking by, and this was the entire experience. As we're doing this project, the whole neighborhood kept asking, inquiring about our work. We learned from this team how to do this job. We learned irrigation and landscaping. These are a couple of my now part-time employees who we're measuring the soil socks and actually stuffing them here in my driveway. And then once they were stuffed, we took them over to the spot and put the plant plugs in there. It irrigates overhead sprays. We precisely angle it just to land onto the pond liner. And then we have a greenhouse that kind of serves as a shed for us to put materials. Now the goal is, and a wash station, the goal is that we grow food like this and sell it hyper locally just within 2 miles on a membership basis. So what that allows us to do is to charge a regular rate and have an expected revenue coming in and have people come by to pick it up in person. We've had things like spinaches, we've had Swiss chard, green onions, romaine head lettuces, radicchio, we're now onto tomatoes and peppers. And we've shown the community that a solution can be created from scratch by looking at what you have around you and not focusing on the tools, but focusing again on the block of wood, and that centering on what the solution is. What is the goal and the purpose? And the goal and the purpose is to grow food that didn't exist before in a sustainable way. We've now got 50 people coming by on our membership every single week. We harvest twice every week on Sundays and Wednesdays. And we have 50 more people on the wait list for this. Additionally, we have 60 people more who've offered their yards and homes to us to do more gardening and more growing around LA. In fact, some have offered for me to move into their extra homes and do it. Yeah, it's really taken the neighborhood. They're proud of what's there. They're excited to walk by it and see them growing periodically. They bring their families. Some people who are on vacation stop by and see it while they're in town. We've had news agencies at the micro farm every single day since it opened in April. Every single harvest day. I'm literally scheduling people out 2 or 3 weeks out. You know, Good Day LA is coming next Wednesday, I think, on Fox. And soon will be published in Forbes magazine because of our work and because of our ability to create jobs that are green and make them sustainable. I pay my people $20 an hour. And I call this a Black American resistance to food apartheid. Food apartheid is when food conglomerates decide what all the people are going to eat and do it in a discriminatory manner. Lately, nearby this micro farm, there's a Ralph's that's being shut down because they didn't want to pay their employees hazard pay during COVID. And they explicitly said that. It's no secret. And it's curious to me, why that one's being shut down versus say one over in, Santa Monica or wherever, Culver City, right? They also didn't want to pay them. So why not shut that one down? So it shows you there's too much of our liberty and freedom in the hands of those who we have no business trusting. We have no business trusting our food in anyone else's hands. Because now it's prolifically growing. We have 7 part-time staff. I've got a few contractors. I've got many volunteers. And now we've got an HR company, payroll company, accountants, a couple of different types of lawyers, intellectual property coming through, and a seedling provider who keeps us stocked so that once we harvest, we just replant and put it back right to grow once again. And the great benefit, again, being water recycling, is that we can water this as often as it's actually needed, which is different than a typical garden. Gardens cost money with water, and in LA, water's going up. So thankfully, we're able to water. Now it's getting hot, so I turned it up to 3 times a day, both 5:30 a.m., 12 p.m., and then like 4 p.m. And that food is just growing madly. It continually produces. And again, we're serving 50 families who, right upon harvesting and washing on the spot, we bag it, and we don't have plastic bags anymore. We now have paper bags, but we bag it right there on the spot and put it on the curb for our members to walk up on their stroll or their drive, and they can pick it up with their family. The young kids coming with the families have been inspired by our work. I've loved the transition I see in this young boy here. He's curious about plants and how they work. He just loves eating things that taste amazing. And then 10% of our food we commit to a community refrigerator. So everything that we grow, 10% of it goes to the Lemert Park fridge, where anyone can walk up and get what they want as they need. Everything is natural. So we use coyote urine as a deterrent to keep the raccoons and the possums away. It actually works. We put them on little tabs around the perimeter of the garden. Coyote urine is a great deterrent for both possums and humans. And and overall, our water usage is amazingly low because it's recycling. We have our separate meter here that lets us know that over the course of just our first month, the red shows you what was being used on the grass, which is about 800 gallons of water every day, believe it or not. And what the blue shows is what we used by recycling water and growing food, which is only 8% of the total water usage. 8%. So when anyone says they don't have a solution to our water crisis, tell them we can grow food on 8% of what you're using on your grass. And overall, each year, it would be a tremendous difference. The water bill for this family at the house has plummeted. They said in the first month, about $400 of their water bill was gone all of a sudden because of our work. We're also growing on table trays on concrete spaces. One lady here offered our space, and she's growing about 50 plants that a local chef is buying from us. All she has to do is keep it hand watered, and these can go anywhere. They're efficient, they're practical, and it allows me to eventually hire this woman to just grow that food. We're also growing food on walls. This is a Varden system that installs in just an hour or so. It has 36 plants that water themselves, and we've had clients put all strawberries in there, all tomatoes. You can put beets and root vegetables as well. They do grow in that way, and it's become a way to take advantage of space that's going unused for a real legitimate purpose. At this point, I'm growing the part of the ambition of Crop Swap LA is to use unused space. And in LA, this red area just shows you how little green space is in these red areas, very little park green space. In Lemert Park, this area I'm living right now, has an area called Marlton Square. It's actually right next to the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall and next to a Kaiser Permanente. It turns out that there are 4 properties there, the gray here, that are city owned and unused, and they add up to about 11 acres of space. So I've had a petition going for a little while and done some presentations at neighborhood councils and block clubs and things like that to suggest that we convert the space into 50% agriculture and 50% parkland, and kind of use it for our intentions. And this has been done in other parts of the world, in the cities, New York, Dallas, and even parts of LA, where unused city space has been recommitted to green zones. It offers an opportunity for culture, play, work, and just health prosperity, whereas right now we don't have that. The petition that we have here, it's not that important that I get people to sign it. I just want to show you that without any effort, 1,500 people found it and signed it. We also do a little bit, well, I won't talk about that one. Okay, so this is nearing the end of my presentation. I just want to show you my car, because part of our goal is to get a truck donated to us because this is otherwise what I got to do. I stuff my car and I drive down the street looking like a clown maniac. But we're an LLC, so it's difficult to get donations, and it's intentionally an LLC so that we can prove that food is valuable and needs to sustain itself on on its own economic terms rather than be dependent upon all these external factors that lead to grants. External factors like a grant being available, or the funders caring enough this year, or it's very important to show that an LLC is what needs to be doing this. So thank you. I know we're a little over time. I am still open to questions, but I think I have just 10 minutes before I'll need to do something else. So I'm very open to questions, and thank you so much. Thank you. Don't say bye until I say bye. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Dave. I see your hands up. And then Vita's next. And thank you for dealing with my emotions. Maybe Vita, you can go ahead, love.
You know, it is so inspirational, Jamiah, because it looks like there are problems that they're insoluble. What are we going to do? We don't have enough water. We don't, and there are answers if you as you do, use your head and get people to buy into it. Well, if it's just habit, we just think we got to go to the supermarket and get the food. And there are other answers. I'm thrilled. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Omar.
Yes. Let me see if I'm unmuted.
You are. I hear you just fine already.
Oh, you do? Okay. This is wonderful. I mean, you and Gerald don't know each other, but you're working both with positive energy on the divine spirit, which is a world solution, all colors, all nationalities, everywhere. You both spoke about how we can work with world solutions, and you're both different ages, and you're two amazing, just two amazing men, and what you spoke about was from your scratch, everything comes from the mind, and for your own individual way that you are able to work on these processes, of what we need in the world to keep, food, our physical food, whereas Gerald spoke of our mind food, So I just really applaud you both, and I'm just grateful for you to continue to work on this, and you're hiring people. This is what's so good, and you're paying $5 over what they're saying, $15. Mm-hmm. And the Rouse they closed was on Crenshaw, and I think it was Crenshaw and Slauson. And I'm wondering, why are they closing that Rouse? Because that was, near me. And so I just really applaud you, and just to continue your work. And pretty soon you'll probably hire somebody to do this in LA, and then you'll be going to another place. I see you going to the world, and you're having different people from different countries to work on what the water processes are and how we can get it. And thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Jasmine?
I just wanted to know, do you know Joe Lample? He's a famous gardener, and he had a show. It was called Growing a Greener World. Oh my goodness, I used to watch it every weekend, and it's really an amazing show. He's sponsored by like Subaru, like big, and he drives a green car. And I know there you can find resources. He gives classes. There's another LA Garden Club. When we lived in Culver City, I went to the Culver City Gardens Club, and then here is the Crenshaw Community Garden. That's the closest garden that we have. So I went there and I connected with people, and it was just a really beautiful experience. They have their community days, and I'm so blessed and honored to meet you, because and know that there are others, that are others being fed by you, because it's very much needed. Oh my goodness. Yes. And I just want to ask, when the news media comes to your farm, how do you approach that? Yeah.
It depends on which media is there. I speak a little more candidly about the Black experience if it's like the Wave magazine, the neighborhood ones. And then I very much need to know the audience of
Right.
sorts. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
because a
different.
lot of people don't know that even you exist, except for Forbes. They'll like see Forbes and say, "Hey, oh yeah, I know what that is."
Right.
Yeah. From word association. But I'm very grateful that this is happening. That this is something that not only you're passionate about, but that you're passing down to your daughter, and it's very, very. It's a gift. So it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yes, and my intention is that in 15 years, when she's 18 years old, she can either take over the company or sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Anthony and myself.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much, Jamiah, for sharing your beautiful, tender heart as well as your brilliant mind. You've raised gardening and farming to a new level with your engineering background that I never imagined. So I learned a lot this morning, and I'm really grateful to you. I also appreciate that you're bringing that entrepreneurial spirit to this, because I think that'll help it to be sustainable over the long run.
Yes.
So just on so many ways, I'm excited by what you're doing. I'm wondering, you didn't mention churches and schools. You really have a gift as an educator. And I know a lot of schools are trying to help their students to learn the kind of skills that you'd be able to teach. Also, churches have often underutilized land. There's one church in our city, a Unitarian church, that set up a sustainable garden right in the front of their church, which had been just a grass before.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you've thought about reaching out to those institutions that might be able to spread the word, because I think what you're offering is such an important for our culture, to get away from these horrible front lawns.
Yeah, thank you.
Really respect the land. Okay, thank you. So just my question is, have you thought about those institutions as a...
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony. And I have, we've done a couple projects with one church, and we're tempted to work with schools also. There's a tendency, and the reason why you're right about the entrepreneurial need is that in the schools, they don't usually have a board structure or a business structure that allows for revenue generation. It's usually grant dependent and based on their own resources. Go get your children's first. Yes. You don't want to, sorry, my daughter's naked. Go get your chonies and I'll help you out. You want to put this on after?
No.
What do you want to wear?
Okay.
Go get it. I can help you later. Just give me a few minutes. I love having a presentation and a naked person walks in the room. I just met with the Episcopal School of LA yesterday, as an example, and it's a 6 through 12 school up in Hollywood, I think, and they have a budget to do an installation, but it's not a budget to do continuation. Like if a teacher that's running it needs to not teach there anymore, the program falls through, or if the board of trustees reprioritizes their budget, then it falls through. But that's why there has to be an economic foundation for it. So that's why a lot of community gardens aren't constantly vibrant, because it's not driven by performance or expectations with money coming in. And there's just been this gradual devaluation of the value of food, given how our grocery system is. It's actually the grocery system is actually a war anachronism. It's an anachronism from wartime, when it made sense as a government to have food rations and a depot of food for your people in case there's some nuclear explosion or something. Like, it's all fear-based. It's all backwards. And so, we're saying we can grow food proactively in a situation that is about love and abundance. The abundance, like you mentioned, what I choose to pay folks, $20 an hour. I haven't figured out how to pay myself, but I know I'm not going to be cheap on them. Like, that's not a business model that's sustainable. They're coming from across town, putting their hands in the soil and doing things that are really important. And eventually the society just has to catch up and let them know, yeah, financially it's important. So yeah, that's my thought on that. I just got to double check my time. I promised somebody I would give them a call. I'd like to leave my info though, and I guess if anyone wants to support Crop Swap LA, again, we can take a donation less than $250. That won't need to be like written off or reported, but we're happy to offer a letter. But just generally, I mean, your words today were enough support for me. The spirit that you all bring on your meeting, it's very real. And on the tough days, I'll remember your kindness so that I can keep going.
I put your petition into the chat, and if you could maybe put your contact in the chat too as well before you have to go.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, here's my email address.
A few other hands are up. I did want to ask if you were in touch at all with Ron Finley or the Green Grounds. Ron got the city of LA to open up traffic divider strips to gardening a number of years ago.
Yeah.
There was also, I don't know if she's still doing it or if she's still around, Jewel from Jewel's Catch One. It's a gay bar on Pico. She had a project with a bunch of families on 29th and Budlong, where they took out this in the backyards, they took out all the fencing between all the houses on the block to create a joint. Not quite a farm, but not as impressive as yours.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you all so much. Please do email me. I'm grateful, and I wish we had more time together. But thank you so much, and everybody.
I appreciate it.
Keep in touch.
I put my email in the chat. Please respond.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Can we donate? Jamiah, you said something about giving us a link to that.
Yes.
I don't see it.
It's on Venmo, and I think it's that right there. And if you have the Venmo app, you can kind of look for Crop Swap LA. I'm very, very grateful for anything, and also just more than anything, grateful for your spirits in this movement. We all see it's important. We see it's about justice too, and yeah, we're hoping to transform consciousness.
I appreciate it.
Keep in touch.
I put my email in the chat. Please respond.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Can we donate? Jamiah, you said something about giving us a link to that.
Yes.
I don't see it.
It's on Venmo, and I think it's that right there. And if you have the Venmo app, you can kind of look for Crop Swap LA. I'm very, very grateful for anything, and also just more than anything, grateful for your spirits in this movement. We all see it's important. We see it's about justice too. And yeah, we're hoping to transform consciousness